Social psychology is only a small portion of the entire field of psychology, and to me, conformity and obedience were the most memorable and engrossing aspects of this specific section. The amount of influence groups and even single individuals have over you is eye-opening, and conformity and obedience demonstrates that influence. Before we begin, allow me to introduce the second new series debuting during this upload marathon, Pokemon Psychology, or Pokemon Psych for short. Pokemon Psych is going to be an edutainment series much like Pokeprofiles and Pokemon Geographic. Some episodes will focus on specific topics like conformity, while others will look at characters to see what psychological topics such as illnesses drive their actions and motivations. So I hope you enjoy this brand new series and you find it both entertaining and educational. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the word conformity? If you can't think of anything right away, that's alright. Conformity can be very subtle. But perhaps you thought about the compulsion to clap en masse upon the completion of a performance. Oh, or you take off your shoes upon entering a house. In both cases, you are correct. You are subject to conformity. Those are examples of established cultural norms, depending on your culture. And you've been trained since the time you were a child to comply with them, though these are one of numerous other instances of conformity. Alright, so what? I'm a maverick and I'll do what I want. Awesome, it's great to think independently. But what about decisions that cause discord within your friend group? What if you anger someone you highly respect? What if, by failing to clap, you stand out in the crowd and people look at you funny? Well, you have just encountered everyone's favorite little mental buddy, cognitive dissonance. That uncomfortable mental nagging that happens when you decide on an action that goes against your thoughts and beliefs. Cognitive dissonance can also be applied in reverse, especially when your thoughts and beliefs misalign with the group. Perhaps your friend group decides upon the activity that you're wholly against, such as smoking. If you refuse, you'll have to argue your point, potentially fracturing your relationship with that group. So instead, you participate. It's easier. In this scenario, your current thoughts have overridden your established beliefs, and therefore you conform to avoid arguing, embarrassment, and so forth. This instance of complying with the wrong choice has been demonstrated famously through the Asch experiment, which tested the influence groups hold over individual choice. The core of the experiment was that a single person would participate with a group in a visual acuity test. The group was all Confederates who were individuals aware and work with the researcher. The Confederates were instructed to answer correctly initially to develop trust in the subject, and then begin lying unanimously. The actual subject was seated near the end of the answering line, so they got to hear everyone else's answers first. The questions themselves were fairly easy in that you determined which of 3 lines matched a given line. The answers were obvious most of the time, especially when giving more than just a cursory glance.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with the white t-shirt.
So what percentage do you think conformed to the group and gave a wrong answer to a simple question? It seems reasonable to assume maybe 5 or 10%. Try 75% conforming to the group at least once, with 5% conforming with the group every single time. Variations have been conducted, such as one that proved that conformity was higher among friends, showing that your friend group is far more influential on your personal choices than you think.
2. 2.
This was just a simplified overview of the full Asch experiment and its variations. This experiment only demonstrates compliance, which is one of 3 conformity types. This type of conformity is straightforward because ultimately, you don't change your views simply because the group decided upon something else. And you may actually privately loathe the choice. Here's a Pokemon example. Your friend group decides upon eating at the captain's table over Bob's your uncle, but you're in disagreement because you had a very bad experience previously at the captain's table. The group seems happy with the choice, so you put on a fake smile and go along. Why cause such a fuss when the group seems happy? It's okay. Perhaps your opinion on the captain's table may change this time, right? Possibly. If it does, then you initially complied, but a change in opinion would result in internalization, like Lily's discontent with Pokemon battles slowly changing, eventually becoming a trainer herself. After all, everyone else is a Pokemon trainer, and the Pokemon themselves don't seem terribly hurt, so why not give it a shot? Identification is the result of conformity to a given societal role and the expectations of that role. A decent comparison, though perhaps not perfect, is Beidei's assumption to gym leader. He becomes a lot more humble, likely due to both Opal and the pressure of being a gym leader. This type of conformity plays into the concept of societal roles, which would make for an excellent topic for a potential future episode in this series. Let's look at the evil teams now and what role they play in this video. Well, they are the best examples of groups in Pokemon. Look at Team Skull, who is portrayed accurately as ruffians who seek trouble. They aren't a professional organization, yet they all wear similar clothes, use similar Pokemon, and opt to do a goofy, potentially embarrassing dance on certain encounters. These are all instances of conformity. Team Skull members may have grown up in a rough household with very little friends. So when this group of deviants gathers, the idea of joining is a win-win by escaping the household and gaining new friends. So why go against the flow if everyone else is dyeing their hair pink and blue? Why risk losing those friends you crave just because you can't stand the tank top? Why not just steal someone's Pokemon if it means you earn more respect within the group? This is normative social influence, which is one of two broader concepts that leads to conformity. This is just a fancier term for peer pressure, either direct or indirect. We conform to fit in with the group in multiple ways if necessary, from adopting a bad habit to simply changing our clothing choice. The second broad category is informational social influence. This occurs frequently in unfamiliar situations where we simply look at our peers and emulate them. It's prom, but you don't know how to dance? Informational social influence has you covered. Somewhat. How about an assignment you need to turn in, but you're a new student? Simple. Wait until another student turns it in first and copy them. Boom, covered. As you can see, conformity is everywhere, and we're influenced to conform in numerous ways, stemming from our simple desire to fit in, avoid cognitive dissonance, and embarrassment. But there is another type of conformity, distinguished by demonstrating our willingness to conform not just to groups, but authority figures. This is obedience, and is simply our willingness to conform to the demands of a figure with perceived authority over us, even if this command goes entirely against our morals. So why would we comply, since going against our morals would generate cognitive dissonance? Yes, you're right, but refusing could result in the figure losing respect for you, punishment, or another consequence entirely. There is one caveat to obedience to a directive entirely against our wishes, and that's the belief that the authority figure takes full responsibility, thereby deflecting blame from the individual performing a potentially brutal action. This was demonstrated plainly in the Milgram experiment. The experiment itself consists of 3 separate rows. The first is the actual experimenter, under the guise of an authority figure. The second row is a Confederate learner who, after initially meeting the third row, will remain out of view. The last row is the teacher, who is the actual subject in this experiment. The teacher's job is to turn up the voltage on a dummy shock box every time the Confederate learner fails to answer a question on a memory test correctly. The voltage dials are labeled in plain English from mild shock to the top voltage featuring an ominous XXX. The learner will ultimately get answers wrong and once shocked will pretend to be in pain. As the voltage is increased, the learner will audibly complain, refuse to continue, and eventually stop responding entirely. This would affect the teacher, who can be seen questioning their choice and even requesting that they be allowed to stop. The experimenter will simply respond with one of the following responses, depending on how many times the learner asked previously. The experiment will stop after asking or refusing to participate a 5th time, or the learner reaches and administers the final shock.
And who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman?
I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please.
All right, next one. Slow. Wrong. Answer is neck. 300 volts.
Just like the Asch experiment, I want you to think about what the results could be. How many people complied with an order that could have killed the learner? Got it? Alright. You'll be happy to know that every participant in the experiment questioned the orders. But 65% continued to the final dial, even after expressing discomfort. A critical moment is when the authority figure informs the teacher that full responsibility lies on the experimenter, and not the teacher. This is why completely normal people can do extremely brutal acts by simply following orders.
You accept all the responsibility?
The responsibility is mine, correct. Please go on.
Brave. Woman, soldier, dog, horse. Answer is woman. 450 volts.
Team Galactic is the most ambitious and organized team in Pokemon. Grunts in Team Galactic are willing to blow up Lake Valor with the Galactic Bomb. A blast felt across Sinnoh and potentially harmful or deadly to the people and Pokemon in and around Lake Valor. But the Grunts, even the bad eggs, could easily blame the commanders. After all, they were just following orders to reach the organization's goal. Individual thinking isn't necessary when you look at the next Grunt wearing the same outfit and following the same orders you are. Conformity and obedience are powerful influencers in our daily behavior, allowing us to avoid embarrassment through emulation, fit snugly within our friend groups, and enable the participation in inhumane acts of cruelty. The grunts of the evil teams are no less human than you and I, but perhaps their bad qualities are amplified by the group pressure, or simply facades to avoid rejection from the group. They may follow an order unflinchingly, but deep down regret every ounce of it. After all, they were just following orders, like the bomber crews in World War II. They didn't order the bombing of cities, they simply carried out the orders that were given to them. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.